Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of an alternate history novel. We're talking about a formal proposal in the US for the annexation of Greenland.
So could Greenland actually become the 51st state? Well, this isn't just some wild hypothetical anymore. There's a real bill in the US Congress that lays out a path for exactly that. Now you might be thinking this came out of nowhere, but the idea of the US acquiring Greenland, it's actually popped up a few times over the last 100 years or so. So the real questions are, why now? And how would this even work?
Okay, so first things first, let's break down what this proposal is all about. This is the Greenland Annexation and Statehood Act, introduced back in January of 2026.
So, at its heart, the bill is basically an authorization. It would give the US president the official green light to, well, try and acquire Greenland from Denmark. This is a pretty big deal because it takes the idea from just, talk and speculation and puts it into actual formal legislative language. And this isn't some vague wish list either. The bill gets really specific. It would mandate that the president start formal talks with Denmark, and this is a key part, it frames Greenland as a future U.S. territory from the get-go. That really sets the stage for everything that would come next.
Right, so getting Greenland is just step one. The bill doesn't just stop there at making it a territory. It actually lays out a whole roadmap for how it could become a full-fledged U.S. state. So how would it work? It's a pretty clear sequence of events. First, obviously, the U.S. has to acquire Greenland. After that, the president would need to go to Congress and figure out all the necessary legal changes. Then, it would be up to Greenland to adopt a new constitution that works with the U.S. system. And the final step? A vote in Congress to officially admit it as the 51st state. Now, there's a really specific phrase in the bill that's super important. Any new constitution for Greenland has to be Republican in form. That might sound a little strange, but it's actually a standard requirement for any new state. It comes right out of the U.S. Constitution, and it just means the new state's government has to be a representative democracy. One that lines up with American laws.
Okay, so this all begs a huge question, right? Why is this even being proposed? What's the motivation? Well, according to the bill's sponsor, the reasoning is all about one thing: U.S. national security.
Yeah, this quote really says it all. The sponsor's office calls Greenland a strategic national security asset. So the official argument here isn't really about the economy or anything like that. It's all about geopolitics. That Greenland's location makes it a critical piece on the global chessboard that, from their perspective, the U.S. needs to control. And when they talk about strategic importance, they're pointing to a few key things. First, control over those Arctic shipping lanes that are opening up as the ice melts. And second, they are explicitly talking about competition with both China and Russia for influence and resources in this increasingly important part of the world.
So we've got the what and the why, but let's get real for a second. What are the actual chances of this thing passing? I mean, a bill is one thing, but a law is something else entirely.
And yeah, there seems to be a huge gap between the goal of this bill and its political prospects. Pretty much every analysis you see calls it highly controversial. And the consensus? It's considered extremely unlikely to ever pass and become law.
Okay, so if it's almost certainly not going to pass, what's the real point here? Is this whole thing just political theater, or is there maybe something deeper going on?
Well, the key might be to stop looking at it as a bill that's meant to become law. Instead, think of it as a formal political signal. It's like a big, official declaration to the rest of the world, putting U.S. interest in the Arctic down on paper, for the record.
So you could say the bill's real job is to shift the whole conversation. It takes this idea of U.S. interest in Greenland out of the realm of rumor and makes it official. It forces everyone to talk about the Arctic's strategic importance, and it's a clear signal to other global powers that the U.S. is watching the region very, very closely. And that really leaves us with a huge question to think about. I mean, this specific bill is probably a long shot, right? But the trend it's pointing to, those are very real. The Arctic is opening up. The competition for its resources and shipping routes is just getting started. And you have to wonder, is this one piece of legislation just the opening move in a much larger game that could reshape global power for years to come?